5,
4,
3,
2,
1.
yeah.
Hooray!
Very simple.
Very simple.
Very simple.
All right. God,
I love the. Oh, you just reminded me though of last week's "Catch You on the Flip."
I proper laughed myself listening back to it because I do it so coolly, and then you just burst out laughing. And I go, "Oh, I don't sound cool at all."
I was just like,
catch you on the flip. Fuck. Why?
Why did I say
Why
that?
did I say that? Cool.
Anyway, sorry.
No.
Did you go...
No. I was just looking for that one line, even though
Yeah.
I should know it off by heart. So, all right.
And now, back to Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons. Nothing of power. Use your lightning bolt. Victory is yours. You want to play,
Hello and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a podcast where we read about some Dungeons and Dragons and discuss how we might include it in our role-playing campaigns. With me, joining me in the Forest of Chult, as it appears to be, is Hamilton. Hamilton, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Now I want to add loads of like foresty noises now and sort of woo-hoo.
Like the Wild Thornberry music. I've realised now, if I just shout out lots of references, they do appear in the video. So
Yeah, they do. Yeah, exactly.
not
That's
making
the whole point.
not making lots of work for our poor editor, but I'm just like, oh.
That was funny!
You have made a very powerless enemy. Good day and be well.
So yes, I'm currently recording from a meeting room in my office, because why the hell not? And I was...
That's what meeting rooms are for, right? Creating your own podcast.
Yeah, on my lunch break, why not? But also, it's really funny because I thought, I'll go and have a look around, see what there is. And what it turns out is that our building has very kindly modernised everything to include glass everywhere. And I was just like, I don't want to be... First of all, I don't want to be put on display whilst talking about D&D, even though I would do that normally. But also, the reverberation of the glass is just... Oh, yeah, for maybe it doesn't matter for video, but for podcast listeners, I feel you. So I've done this pre-advance, even though it means absolutely nothing.
Well, it's very thoughtful of you.
Thank you.
100%.
And how are you, Hamilton? What have you been up to?
Curse of Strahd last night was just dire. You saw it in my chat in the Discord, and I was just, no, I'm not. I'm just like, I want to get out of this fucking house.
It never lets you leave.
It doesn't. I was literally like, everyone was like going like, I've been literally the person. We had 6 sessions without a long rest. Okay, and I'm fine about it. But I was down 3 times in a space of about 10 rounds. So we had a bit of combat. I was down. I got raised, and then we did a little bit of role play. Then there was a combat. Then I was down, and then we had to get through some fucking doors with spikes. That then I was like, I have a dex of 0. I finally got chainmail though.
Perfect.
Bloody hell! I'm sorry. I was a paladin with. I've got the worst rolls. Everything's like 10 or 11. There's no negatives, but they're all 10 or 11. I've got one that's 13, so that's my strength. So my charisma, like spell save, is 11, and I had an AC of 10, and I had no hit points, and it was literally just like, can we just fucking leave this building now? No, let's go play with the orb. Let's see what happens there. That's a great idea. Fucking idiot.
That's so funny.
I was just like, I'm standing outside the room, and you could go in and play with your orbs, and then I had to come in and save everyone, but then I didn't because I nearly died. Anyway, Curse of Strahd.
The hijinks galore. Oh, no,
it is fun. I mean, I'm having a lot of fun, but it's just...
You're just like, let us leave. The house goes, no. I always think of it as the house from Poltergeist. That's just like, it will rattle and then just disappear as you leave. But,
I've listened to the walls, and then my DM says, I'm going to message you something. I was like, oh no. You hear a heartbeat. I was like, oh. Big spoilers for Cursed Strike, by the way. But there you go.
always when we talk about this. Right. Well, Hamilton, we have an exciting topic to talk about today. We've hinted at for many weeks, but finally we are here. We're going to talk about villains.
Yes.
And how to maybe create your own villain, or how to think about villains in another way. Because I don't know about you, Hamilton. As I've said off recording, there's a lot of villains that have come out recently, which is very fun, really enjoyable. Yes. But they're all like world-ending. It's the end of the world. It's a demon. It's a demon. that's all it is now.
Demon. Yeah.
It's like, is it a ghost? No, it's a demon. Oh, okay. And
or a vampire.
Or a vampire. And it was interesting. So I did a quick thing. We obviously Dragon's Duel, or Roleplay Factory, as it is now known, has its own very own Discord, and you can come join us there, where we chat about meal deals, what we do in the shadows.
Yes. The sadness of meal deal pasta salads. Yeah. We've got an architectural review channel now.
You get to review architecture.
I review buildings for you want. I'm brutal, but
it's what the people want.
It is. They asked for it. I give them what they want.
In one of in our channel, I talked about what do you consider as a villain, and where do you get your inspirations from in the lead up to this episode. And compared to where all the books are sort of saying, oh, it's got to be a high-powered deity, it's going to be, CR20, have all these powers, they're spellcasters, they also change into monsters and polymorph, etc. A lot of the suggestions we got, which were great, by the way, and thank you so much to everyone who joined in on that, were a lot of real-life suggestions. Obviously, there's people talking about, Cowboy Bebop.
I think it's time we blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Anime stuff, which I think is absolutely amazing. But people going politicians, like I know I put in Priti Patel and and Boris Johnson, lots of Republican, obviously presidents or past presidents and politicians and stuff. And you're like, yes, because that's for us is what we see in real life as true villainy and stuff. Like, I mean, we make jokes all the time about current UK government being evil because that's what we see. That's what's impacting on our lives. So I thought we'd talk about villains that we can take from real life and from TV and stuff like that, which are, at the end of the day, they're just men and women, or they're just folks who could just be you. And that's what I love about role-playing games. I love having villains that you could easily become one. So, yeah. So what about you, Hamilton? When you think of villains, who do you think of? What if you were going to put villains in your game? Where would you start?
Where would I start? I mean, it depends on the game. I think a good, if you're going PG-13, I think Disney's a really great starting point, isn't it? It's there's so many. They've got some great ones. They've all got their own sort. Some of them have got more in depth to them than others. Some are very flat, but there's. Cruella de Vil's quite a classic, sort of just flamboyant, and just the interactions. Particularly I'm talking in the cartoon movie, so that's where I get that from, as more than the later ones. But that sort of doesn't really care for people, really just self-interested, and then it's got this quite devilish, with the name, but this sort of even devilish more, desire for beauty and costumery, and therefore is willing to do some bad things to very lovely dogs in order to achieve her visual requirements, basically. So but there's something about that sort of just pure selfishness is what she is, and the way they play them all the way through that, her relationship to the mother of because she's meant to be a friend of the mother of and
Anita.
Yeah, Anita, that's it. Thank you. And so, and the way she just disregards her whenever she's there, and it's just really well put together. So I think those ones come to mind.
And I think that's a really interesting one, again, because I was just going to point out that connection, you already have it with, if you were taking your adventurers, if you sort of extrapolating it, obviously, you're maybe not playing dogs as adventurers, although I'm sure we'll talk about Pugmire at some point.
Yes.
But the fact that you're the main characters of Pongo and Purdy, and then you've got the two humans who have this connection to the big bad of that film, and there's sort of, it's an everyday connection, and like you said, there's that sort of disrespect to that sort of that connection, which dogs don't really know about, but it's already there right from the beginning. And I love that idea of you have the big bad from session 1. They are a friend, and then they turn against you, or they've just always been there. And it's that sort of slow realization place. I think that just makes such a a bigger impact on stuff. Like for me, yeah, Disney's a really good place to start because I think it's first of all cartoonish in a sense, but also there's that one to me that is so clearly signposted. It's very emotional. So like for me, I was thinking about like Ursula, who the sea witch in Little Mermaid. Like there is a lot of fan lore on Ursula, as I discovered.
Oh really? Oh, okay, yeah.
But like again, through all this sort of stuff, like what she wants is to get one over on King Trident, and she does that by torturing Ariel, essentially, like taking her voice and all that sort of thing, and then taking away her dream of marrying Prince Eric by impersonating her with her voice. And it's all very devious, and I like that because it's just very simplistic. It's like, she's clearly evil, but it's one of those things where the adventurer or the protagonist doesn't know it per se. But if we go back to our episode we did about the hags, the reason they're so successful is that people still come back to do bargains with them, even though they know the bargains is not in their favour. They're, this time I'll win out, and it never will. And so I quite like that as a concept, that sort of like, you already know them, you maybe know that they are not a good person, and yet you have to live with them in some way, or they're just part of your everyday life or your sphere. Like, even if it's a small indirect link, I always think that's a really good. I think
the thing to pick up on that is that some of the things that they do are very humanly evil, and you're saying like the emotional basis, like impersonating you is a horrific thing that you can really understand, as anyone can sort of get engaged with. Like someone pretending to be you is something that you could all have this idea of, and I think that's what's great about them. And they give you those ideas which are not too aggressive and imposition, but they're something that are very personal that you can attach to. You know, if your players are comfortable with them, obviously, and always clarify that point. But absolutely. I think if they are, then they're very simple, not totally aggressive, but still quite emotional draws for your players to respond to.
Yeah, and having villains who are going maybe one step up, that have power resources already. So that you come to a city and say the Sheriff of Nottingham is a great example of this, where they have influence, they all have it, and they bend the laws and manipulate it in a way that makes the good people look bad, even though morally it's not. And I think that's, again, it's very much like real life to a certain extent. You follow all the rules, but then the rules don't really help you, they help other people.
And that again is very similar. It's so like bring something really out inside you, doesn't it? That sort of like, but I'm doing the right thing, and it's just like, and it's just it's so bad.
I can tell you, like, I recently went to the council to do some admin work, and let me tell you, I paid them money. I've got no receipt, no nothing, and it took forever to get done. And it's just one of those things where you're thinking, like, I've done everything you asked for, and yet you still don't believe me, you still don't do stuff. And, the person, it was interesting because that person I was talking to, obviously it's just a small cog in a big wheel, but because it's so unwieldy, the system, you can easily, as excuse me, you can easily, as somebody who is a bit more with it, perhaps, or you can just use the laws or use the structures of powers that are there and bend it to you. A bit like the other example I can think of for that is, now I'm going to get his name wrong, and that shows me bad as a Lord of the Rings fan. Is it Grimworm or Grimtongue? The guy.
Wormtongue.
I was close. Grim.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very grim. Wormtongue and King. Oh God.
The King of Rohan. Let's just say the King of Rohan.
King of Rohan, and you can see, because that evil influence, that corruption, like this person isn't a deity. He's just an evil sort of psychic that's just whispering bad things in his ear, and it just completely transforms the King of Rohan. So
that's very true. You did. I think the thing that you made me think of there as well, and this is funny. Before we go on, is I actually played a villain on stream the other day, and I didn't even think to. Yes. What? How random is this?
Very random.
Yeah. So I was on, and it made me just, when I was talking about earlier, I was on a Wheel of Time show that Play Nerd Allies were doing. It wanted me to come on just as a guest character for whenever this villain was going to be revealed. And it was a very interesting experience. But the villain themselves was, it was called The Rise of Black Edge. It was all leading up to the new Wheel of Time show, so it was like a prequel to that. Anyway, so then they'd been working in this city where things were going a bit funny and something was happening, and there was a male sorcerer somewhere, which is in Wheel of Time, male sorcerers are go crazy and kill everyone, basically. And so they were there, and then they befriended a young orphan boy, well, adult, like teenager, who was helping out the orphanage, and there was things going wrong in the orphanage, but they befriended this one. Turns out, I'm this guy, I'm really actually a bad person in disguise. And like, it got, I mean, I didn't, it was they gave me quite a dark backstory, it was pretty bad. Let's just say Anakin Skywalker sort of levels are bad. Yeah, and it was quite, and like, so I normally don't play very, I play very happy-go-lucky games, so I'm not a really evil person, like, in my D&Ding, but it was quite fun to have to just embody and act this very villainous character. I was the only British person on the show. I'm not surprised. Do you know what I mean? Classic Americans hiring a Brit for a baddie.
They're like, we can't get Alan Rickman anymore. We'll get Hamilton.
Can't get Alan Rickman, you get Hamilton, exactly. So, but it was quite, and we were playing a narrative combat instead of actual full-on D&D combat. So I had no sheet, because he said, you are OP. Basically, I'm like being given the gifts of the Dark One. I can do what I like. And also, they just wanted to make this like it was an epic battle. There was loads of things, but anyway, I had to be narrative. And so he said to me, "Look, I want you to kill all my players."
Wow.
And so you've got to do it in the most evil, villainous way. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, how do I get into this mindset?" And then you start thinking like it, and you were like, "Okay, so we've got I don't know how much you know Wheel of Time, but there's people called Aes Sedai who are the female sorcerers, and they have these things called warders, so they can bond with." Others that they can have who are non-magical to like give them strength, gain strength back, and it creates it's a very particular bond. It's like stronger than marriage. A lot of them do marry in the story. Anyway, so I thought, well, he had this way. He said, like, I want you to like really hurt them. So I thought, well, the better than going after the magic user is to go after their warder.
Yep.
And the people playing the warder and the magic user are married in real life, and literally I've never felt so. But like they love afterwards, I must admit they came back and said like it was fine, like we were signed up for it, we knew what was happening, but I basically mind warped everyone, told them that the warder is a Trolloc, which is an evil like horned beast. And so everyone turned on him and started attacking him, and he's going down with arrows, and it's like he's running away. And then she's like, actually, like, it was like really horrific. And actually, it was emotional for me, for everyone involved. It was like, I've never been so emotionally involved in a character. But the gameplay and the experience was just, after that, he survived, fortunately. But the Aes Sedai said, like, the female sorcerer said, I'm gonna freaking kill you, like me. And literally burned up all her energy and and which was a beautiful moment in just destroying me, Absolutely. And it was just, and the minute I turned up, I was like giving them like one-liners and quips, and they were just hating me, but that just turned them until they were like, you dead. And it made such a great experience, but I've never felt so awkward in my life, but it was part of it. And what I'm trying to say is that I was reticent about doing it, and in the moment it was quite difficult to do because it's not something I'm not usually doing in my games. But it was like the DM and everyone was aware was going to happen, like bad things were going to happen. And then so obviously going through those steps, getting yourself in a comfortable position, and then allowing yourself to be there can create some incredible moments. And literally the DM was amazing, DM Carl. He made this monologue at the end that was like shivers all over the place. Like, it was incredible, seriously, really good. Watch it if you have time. But anyway, it was just trying to make a point on how to do villains and to sort of engage with it. Really go for it.
That's
because
awesome.
It can be great.
I love that. Do you want to do a 5-2-1?
Yes, let's do it. Yeah, okay.
5.
5.
Oh no.
5.
4.
Oh, okay. Shit, I wasn't ready. 3.
2.
1.
Hooray!
I think that just explains everything.
I think that's explained everything, right?
Yeah.
Hi everyone, we're back. Sorry about that.
We've got video this time.
We've got video this time, and I've also moved slightly more. But there's forest control. You need to see it.
Yeah, and you would not have known that we moved. We could have got away with that,
Could have,
to be honest. But
I just said it aloud, so it's fine. So, going back to your point though about
yes,
I think that's a very interesting thing you said about how it is to play a villain, like on the sheet, perhaps, and like these things. But then you as a player, or you as a DM playing it, and it's interesting because when I spoke to improvisers, when we're doing scenes, when there's someone that is a villain in a scene, and this could be anyone that's like, proper super villain, like Lex Luthor type, or just somebody who's a bad person in the scene who not necessarily saying horrible things or doing horrible things, but just is like, you're like, oh, what an asshole. And lots of people, certainly in improv, are like, I hate doing that because I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to be, I want people to see that I'm a nice person. And I want to drill down the fact that what was interesting what you said is that we had a lot of fun. The game was amazing. It was such an experience. I felt awkward, but actually everyone was in on it on the first level. So that's always very important. I know we talked about trust and all players getting used to that. But also they know that's not you, that's just a player. And, there is something delicious about playing a villain and getting something over on someone and the realization and the penny dropping. But that's not you, the person, doing that. Like you're not deliberately taking puppies away from their owner to make a coat out of them. And I think it's I love being a villain. I love getting one up on people because I just, for the story element and that collaborative thing, is so different. And it's a bit like when you play like games like Werewolf or Resistance, and you're just playing, and you're doing that whole sort of lying thing. I know some people don't like those games, and that's completely different. But there's something great about being a saboteur.
I love Werewolf.
Exactly, because you're like, and then you do something.
The whole energy in that game is just incredible. That's the thing.
So that's the thing about using that energy, taking that nervous energy, and putting it into a confidence, cool thing, which is what we're sort of going to go on to now, is thinking about how do you roleplay villains and how do you get across it? Because sometimes you'll have a really cool villain in mind, but you're like, how can I do them justice? So I've got some examples of villains, Hamilton, and and you don't have to guess who they are per se, but just how would you roleplay them in, or how would you go about sort of indicating to your players that they are the villain, in a piece per se. So I will say these are all humans in a sense. They're all, and I've picked them just from a list on Wikipedia, as one does, called 100 Years Heroes and Villains, and I assume somebody voted them, so that's good. So, the person I'm thinking of, so number one, this person, they are obviously a human. They are very intelligent, very well educated. They get involved in a lot of mysteries, and so they have a very well establishment. I think the most sort of defining feature about them is that they have they're a bit of a foodie. They have a real taste for the fine cuisine. Yeah.
Okay. I know exactly who this is.
Excellent. That's good.
But yeah, no. Well, it's when you say haughty, you kind of just go down that. You think it's going to be, I mean, I might even go for that sort of posh Scottish voice, that very, go like that and be very, welcome to my humble abode, and give it all a bit of, and you go a bit jazzy, don't you? Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
The mannerisms.
That's what I'm going. I don't know why, but you feel like when you're refined and you have time to talk, everything talks with you, doesn't it? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I know this is not their voice at all, but and it would be very much.
It doesn't matter because for the audience, in case you didn't get that, that was supposed to be Hannibal Lecter from The Silence of the Lambs. So exactly, but the fact that you went in a completely different direction, not many people would get that per se, because you could be like, here's the pates I've laid out. Divine, and this describing foods, because again, there hasn't. There's not many people, villains, I would say, that have like a foodie aspect, but giving them like a human trait and really sort of grounds makes it.
And it reminds me a bit of like your sort of phobia of the sort of foodie language that we had in another show. I've forgotten where it was, but in the Feywild one with all the sort of smells and foods, is that you can be very visceral with very like mundane things. Just like you could just be very descriptive about. He gets getting the pate, but he thumbs his finger in it and just scoops it up and just goes, like that, and then passes it to you, which is like a really like
A power
you know,
play.
which is something. If people didn't do like people would not do that, but if they did it in real life, you just how would you react? You know, you can
Exactly.
really put your characters on edge of just like
Absolutely. Yeah, you can imagine.
or just comes over and takes food from your plate.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like, you invite them to a
Okay.
big dinner or a big ball, and you just, I don't know, you're randomly assigned place settings. You know, it could like there's always a ball at some point, or a big conference, and your players are there, and you can just you sat with this person who's like, oh, let me try, and just goes around and just licks like whatever it's like. You can really sense the plum sauce, and you're just like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yes, exactly.
But because they're just weird, not deliberately evil. Because obviously there's no mention of cannibalism yet.
No,
but
not yet.
just taking those hints.
And then exactly, and that, it doesn't even have to be it just could be just something other that he does with she does with the food, sort of thing. Like, I really think I had a character once that I had in a one shot I did, my first sort of one shot I did, which was like an evil person had a palace and he was doing a party and everyone went to it, and he did things with the drinks where he would like give people different drinks and it would affect your brain in different ways, but all party fun. It seemingly was. Do you know what I mean? At first it was all like, oh, I drink this and you can only speak in rhyme. Some of the stuff I do in Dragon's Duel was probably where it came from, but like, and also one person turned into a bard.
Nice.
Because they drunk it, but it was just because it was making all into a party and having fun. But then it turns out he's an alchemist and there's all dodgy stuff going on. But it was just, you know what I mean? But it's like that hinting of, oh, this is all happy, right?
Yeah, because again, it's on to the players to work out, is there something not right, or is it just you being over paranoid and stuff? And I think that, again, that's the delicious part of it. So here's another example I got, and this is actually from the Wikipedia page itself, that they've described this person as a cold, heartless tyrant. That has sort of, they put the stereotype of somebody who is like a battle axe. They are sort of a popular metaphor, for corrupting influence of institutional power and authority in bureaucracies. So, with that in mind, those sort of ideas in mind, how would you where would you place this person per se? What would you do?
See, what you're making me think of is school dinner lady. Do you know the classic idea, the stereotype of the big bulking arms, brutish sort of figure, big hairnet tied really tight around the head, sort of just like, here's your dinner sort of stuff, given that, that's kind of, and that's sort of that bureaucracy, but less like stupid school bureaucracy of like, you can only have one of these sort of things. Like, please sir, can I have some more sort of idea? That's kind of where it's taking me to.
You know what? That is so. It's you're on the right track. I was taking this from Nurse Ratchet from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, who is she's the head nurse who's like controls everything, and she's very more demure, perhaps, but uses that thing. So I love that idea that you've taken that but gone completely in the opposite way. Like it is more obvious the sort of brutish nature of it. But that's the thing, that just a description like that really makes it different, doesn't it?
I didn't know who that was either. I had no idea who you were talking of. But now you say it, then it's kind of similar to Miss Trunchbull.
Yep.
Weirdly, I thought you were using which kind of interesting as well. And again, I don't know. It just that there's an asexuality to the terminology, and I even thought it was quite a masculine person you were talking about. But my mind went to a feminine sort of character. I don't know. Weird.
Yeah. I think
maybe the psyche. I don't know.
Well, no, but isn't that interesting as well? Because, like, again, I think a lot of the times, and it happens with me all the time, is that I refer to monsters or big bads as he, or and I've been trying to get away. I mean, I know. Well, shout out to Derek from How Not to DM. He talked to somebody whose name I completely forgot, but has made She is the Ancient, which is about gender flipping quite a number of the Curse of Strahd characters. I know we always talk about the Curse of Strahd, but I think it's such a good example.
It's pretty good.
Because
I think it's funny because I think some. I mean, I've never really with villains. I've equally got female and male characters, and actually, I'm trying to. There's got to be a couple of sort of gender neutral ones that are the sort of, but they're mainly coming from a more spiritual level, higher level deities. Sort of the sort of Indian mythologies and the sort of Egyptian mythologies that sort of bring those in a bit more. But yeah, I don't know. I think Cruella de Vil is equally on par. And it's all this sort of great, as I say, in the Disney ones that sort of speak to me. There's the Maleficent.
I mean, she's the ultimate. In the team, if you're putting together the fantasy football team, I put her as top. You don't mess with Maleficent. She turns into a fucking dragon, But again, nice note to that. So like I said, we looked at sort of other villains who are monstrous and things. Obviously, we've mentioned Strahd, who is a vampire. But that idea of taking something like a famous monster, like Strahd or anything like that, and go, okay, so what kind of villain is he? Like, oh, he's a vampire, he sucks blood, blah, blah, blah. But actually, okay, take the vampire aspect away, what do you have? And again, I'm not spoiling it for anyone per se, but when you read his sort of, his ideals, or like, he wants something, and he will do anything he wants to, destroy it. He is very manipulative. If you think back to the actual, vampire stories, obviously they're very sexual, they, have lots of partners, all that sort of thing. So instantly you're building up this image of somebody who's very affluent, very in control, very smart, that sort of thing, and also just happens to be a vampire. And I think that's the key thing. It's like if you find a monster that you want to be the villain, have a look at some of the films, but then just go, okay, just pretend they're not a monster. It's like, pretend they are the Michael Caine in the movie of Christmas Carol with Muppets.
Yeah.
Like just try it out. So like, for example, I've got a monster here that I've picked that I would use as my villain. And here's my sort of description I put down. So, again, they're sort of a go-getter, in a sense. They want to get ahead in life. They don't have much with them, but they are very influenced, and they can take on anyone, and they will do anything to get what they want. But they can be controlled if you know how to. So when you think of that, when that's a description, I'm almost describing maybe a sidekick per se, but I'm not. But like, how would you put that into that little description of somebody who wants to get ahead, is very cold-hearted, sort of wants something, but can be controlled to a certain extent if you know the right way.
See, there's a few ways. It kind of, it's just going back to, I've got this idea of like a sort of worker, like maybe like I've got this, now you've made me think of it because you're saying they can be controlled. I'm thinking of like an autonome. That's why. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So they're sort of like, but like they're working hard. They've been just sort of half mechanical being that sort of then could be controlled if you were able to hack into them, or whatever magical way you could overpower the autonomes. Like they have a creator, so there's that sort of sense, and that's kind of what make it. But they're also just this devilishly trying to push themselves ahead. Maybe someone slips into the machine one day because they're doing too well on their scores, or someone turns up who's got that's sort of like, that's going very dark quite quickly, but they're meant to be evil, so that's what.
No, I think somebody who's has sort of psychopathic tendencies in a way. I like that. So what I'm reading is from this it's an entry called the Dullahan, which is essentially a headless horseman. So if you think of like Sleepy Hollow or anything like that, they are controlled because somebody has their head in some way. So, but again, you went somewhere different. Like, again, I like that idea that it is like a servant style like thing, but they have their own powers, and they could like almost unfeeling in a way. They'll do stuff on command, or they'll have I think themselves, but they won't act in mercy unless it's in their self-interest.
It kind of makes me think as well that the sidekicks you talk about that are really more devilish sometimes than the villain themselves, the main villain. I'm trying to think of a good example, but you do have like what's that guy? What's that thing in Star Wars? Jabba the Hutt's little
the sort of
thing.
I can't remember his.
I've forgotten his name. Salacious Crumb.
There you go. Yeah.
Who's equally as sort of like vile, in sort of the way he acts and stuff like that towards everyone, as much, if not more than Jabba, because Jabba's just sort of chill. Do you know what I mean? He's evil, but he's just sort of chilling there and just just kind of being a bit of a glutton. But there's but yeah, Salacious Crumb is just so snivelly and sort of like
But again, that's interesting. Again, if you're thinking about villains, like who are their second in command? Do they have their own agenda? And sort of balancing it in some way. So I think that's such a good example, having Jabba the Hutt, who's so in control, so powerful, not worried about anything, just can sit back all day and just like entertain me, because they can just be like, oh, that doesn't entertain me. The pit for that person,
exactly.
And that, I think that's such a different way of thinking of villains that isn't necessarily I'm going to do all these plans and scheming. There isn't, because obviously he's just like a warlord or a trader or what, I can't remember exactly the terminology, but there's sort of like, I own all this stuff. What are you going to do about it? So I think that's an interesting way. So there's some different ways of thinking about it. I always think that exercise of like taking a monster you want to be a villain, or taking some like a famous person from the film, and think of like 3 distinctive things that are human about them, or I say human, but like something that you can see that happen as a general trait. I always think that's quite good, and at least one of them should be a want in some way. They want this, and and how did they get about it? So so let's go on to then creating our own. So the DM's guide does have
It does.
some.
I will share that screen now. Oh.
So in the DM's guide, it's sort of what I'm going to take this from, Hamilton, is this is designing NPCs. Designing NPCs section, which talks about like making NPCs in general. So it sort of goes through like quick NPCs, detailed NPCs, and then adding on to villainous in a way. So I thought we'd just go through the whole lot essentially. And if you've got dice there, unfortunately I don't have any at work.
Dice.
So looking at the detailed NPCs section, it talks about occupation and history, appearance, abilities, talent, mannerisms, interaction with others, useful knowledge, ideal, bond, and a full secret. So those are a good way of just building up someone who is just like you or me. But then we can add some villainous stuff in the end. So the first thing, I want you again. This doesn't involve dice, but the first thing. So occupation and history. So in one sentence, can you think of someone, either a celebrity, somebody in life? You don't have to name them. I think that would be important. You can just think of somebody that you. Probably not someone you know, but maybe someone in the public eye, that you could describe who they are and a little bit of a history behind them, like a sentence or 2.
Oh my gosh! You want me to do it? Why do you want to do it? Do you want to do this stuff?
Okay, I'll do this one, but you have to roll the dice because I don't have any dice with me.
Okay, yeah, that's what. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to ask you the same question?
Yes, please ask me that same question. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Fine then. Okay. So Fiona, hello. Why don't you think of someone in the public eye that you don't necessarily know, who's not your boss, who has an occupation, and that you can give a little history about, that we could use as a sort of character basis for this NPC villain? Okay.
So I'm going to go for, I know we've talked about before about people using politicians and stuff, so I'm not going to use a politician with that. I am going to use, I'm going to say a journalist. They are not necessarily, they're attached to one publication, but it's independent to all the other publications that are usually in the UK. It's a satirical one, and they sort of make a lot of, when they write stuff, it's about everyone. No one is off limits, and they're very keen to give stuff to sort of be like, see what these people are doing. It's not right, and it's a matter of they're right wing, left wing, neutral. Everyone's up for grabs. So I think about a sort of, I guess I was going to put it into a sentence, like a newspaper editor who focuses their work on anyone and exposing everyone else's secrets for their publications.
Yeah, I like that. So we're just making, so just clarify, it's not actually we're making the real person a villain, we're just using a real person's occupation as a way. I just wanted to clarify that for the people listening, or anyone's lawyers.
No, exactly. We're just going to take that, because that's a person on the top of my head. I'm just going to take that and put them. So we can come to their name right at the end. So that's good.
Yeah.
And I'll say as well that just looking, because it says like have they served in the army, been imprisoned, or adventured years ago. This person's never adventured. They've all they've ever done is write about other people.
Write about other people. Yeah, everyone's a critic. Okay.
Exactly.
Appearance then. Appearance.
So yes. So this is.
Yeah. Did one sentence describe the NPC's most distinctive physical features, or you can roll on the time table now.
I would suggest you roll. So it's a D20.
Okay. D20 then. Okay. Right. Here we go. 13.
13 is bald.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're not making this person from that
I don't know who this person is you're describing
but
either,
they are cycled. So I like that as well. And looking at the other, so this person, their distinctive thing is that they don't have any hair at all. They are completely smooth. And
should we go with like ridiculously shaven, or just got the friar tuck, or have they got they got a long Bill Bailey style?
Oh, I don't like rat tails. No,
a rat tail even?
Oh no. So yes, let's have a rat tail.
Okay, a rat tail. So
we've
got like a rat tail with
piddly rat tail, tiny
with little rat tail coming down the back. Okay, cool. Right.
Definitely.
Should we roll another one? Should we get another one?
I think we'll get another one because there's up to 20 ones. There's some great ones here. The ones I like are the ones that are exceptionally beautiful or exceptionally ugly. So
Let's go with that.
let's go for it.
Oh, I rolled a 13 again, so they're very bold.
Bold, they're very bold. Everywhere, smooth.
10.
A 10.
Tattoos.
Tattoos. Ooh, I like that.
Okay.
So maybe then because they are in publications, I would say that maybe they are not necessarily a walking advertisement for their thing, but they definitely have almost like a business card type thing, maybe on their arm or something like that. So when they're like,
What about every like headline they've made is tattooed on their chest or something?
I like that. Yeah.
on
So
their-
all everything that's like been a big seller, like big news. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. Like
just
tiny.
on their chest.
Oh, I like that
Yeah,
because then you have those images in films where they do a spin. And it's like a massive headline, even though there's no such thing as massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise he's just covered in like massive headlines. Like
Yeah, it has to be lots of little ones, hoping that they do a lot more.
I like that. No, great. I love that. Yes. So so just like on the chest area, all these headlines.
Yeah.
And I will say, actually, because we've made an assumption as well, we don't know if this person is male or female. So I think somewhere on their chest, they'll have all their best
Yes.
headlines. So that's me.
That's true.
There you go.
Or it could be on the back.
Or on the back. Or wherever.
Or on the belly. Or anywhere. Somewhere on the body
They
it has a
definitely-
list
of
of...
headlines. There you go. So so we'll say this now. We don't know if this person is male or female. So there we go.
No.
Cool.
Okay, cool.
All right. Moving on then. So abilities. So you don't need to roll abilities for this just yet. So again, this could be something you do much later when you're creating the villain. But they should be noted if they're above or below average. Great strength or monumental stupidity, for example. So this requires some d6s. So let's roll one high ability and one low ability just to get us going.
Okay, 1 high ability. 6 charisma.
Ah, excellent. So yes, these people are
Interesting.
persuasive, forceful, or board leaders. So yeah, you can imagine that if they're in like the office or something like that, this person's like going ahead.
Go get me this, go get me that. Yeah, no, just also that ability to sort of like sleuth out the truth and just be able to sidle up to people and just sort of just like charm them into giving up secrets for their tabloid.
Yeah, get me portraits of that Spider-Man.
Oh no, but even just exactly. It's Green Goblin, exactly. Yeah, it's but I mean also just like sort of just hanging out in a bar and just sort of just like buying someone a drink and sort of keeping them getting fed with drinks and sort of just being really like charismatic with them and laughing and then going, so you work for Infotech, or this is Infotech is a made up tech company.
How's it
Tell
going
me
over
what
there?
what are you doing over there? You seem like a very intelligent person. You must be high up on the
You must
what's
know
your
everything
latest
that goes on
invention?
there. Yeah, absolutely.
exactly,
Oh, I
yeah.
love that. Okay, let's go for their low ability then.
Low ability, cool. 2.
2 is
Dexterity.
dexterity. So they're clumsy, fumbling. I like that. Again, maybe
Interesting.
because we could have mentioned that this person hasn't been out of entry. All they've known is like life behind the desk. So maybe they're very sedentary, perhaps, or maybe they're just sort of like they just keep very still. So when they don't do performances per se, they sort of stay away from that sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe it's less than I was doing the more hand gesturing, but maybe it's more just sitting there quietly and sort of just mentioning a few things and then back again and then just like that.
Like a coiled cobra, essentially. So that's like,
But I kind of like the sort of like slapstick of it, the fact that they like seem really cool, then they get up from the table and knock it over. Just, do you know what I mean? So they've had this really cool interact every time they're like doing a monologue to the PCs. They sort of just turn around and a cape gets caught in the table and then
that
falls
would be
along with it.
amazing.
Do you know what I mean? Sort of really stupid stuff like that.
So anytime they do a monologue, they have to be sat down, hands on knees, not moving.
Yeah, and then the minute they get to it, so they're like their second in command comes and gives a little drink, and they kind of go, and it just falls everywhere, and they blame the minion and kick them away.
Yeah,
I like that.
amazing.
Great.
I love that. Okay. Moving on to talent. So, in one sentence, describe something that this person can do that is special, if anything. Roll on the talent stage. So another D20. There's some great ones here as well. Like great with kids. I like that one. Great at impressions. Hate
Skilled
speech,
dancer, which doesn't make sense. 19.
Maybe then you're the skilled dancer of words, like being like a skilled wordsmith, and it can make it like it flow off the page and stuff rather than an actual dance.
I like that. That's good. Like, bringing that into something. Or they were a skilled dancer.
Ooh, and they're
and something is like they've like lost the ability somehow. Maybe they've been cursed. They were a skilled dancer and they've been cursed with with 2 left feet or something like that.
And all they can do now is just write and accuse those who can get up and do that stuff.
Could have been a contender.
Yeah.
Could have been a dancer.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, like that sort of history of it. Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Love that.
Okay,
Love that.
cool.
All right, next is mannerisms. So, in a sentence, describe one mannerism that will help the players remember this person. So we'll roll on the mannerisms and quirks table. That's another D20. And again, there's some great ones here. 15.
Stares into the distance.
I guess that's quite tricky, I think, because I would assume this person pays attention to everything that goes around them. That's all right.
Reroll? You don't have to stick with your rolls, do you?
No, you don't. Well, I mean, is there any one of these that does?
What would you go for?
I love number 20, which is Twirl's hair or Tug's beard, even though they don't have any. So it's like that horrible little rat tail at the back that's twiddling. I think. Oh, but you know what? Just because it reminds me of Princess Bride in a way. There's frequently uses the wrong word. So like that whole inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
So, like, I don't think you know what it means. Oh, you need to watch Princess Bride if you've not watched it. Oh,
I've
Hamilton.
not watched it yet. I know, it's on my list. I know, I feel like I'm failing D&D when not watching it. So
it's great. It is great. I think I would... Oh, man, but there's so many other good ones here. Maybe, let's, I think, go for number 5, which is enunciates overly clearly. So I love that. Just certain words that you could do. Just
is he RBBEG? Because he...
Hello?
No, but just because we go, what was he had the other day where we were trying to say benevolent, and it was just he'd go benevolent. Just,
Yes, yeah. Maybe again for the role playing aspect, you write down certain words or catchphrases onto a list, and you can always just look down and go, yes,
Bob.
Get your Blackadder in there. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, moving on to interaction with others. In a sentence, describe how this person would interact with others using the interactions traits table. An NPC's can change. An NPC's behavior can change depending on who they are interacting with. So I think this is quite good. Again, thinking of status as well, is that the higher status you are, you might look down on people, but you might not look down on people. So I think it's very good to be like, how does this person see themselves in contrast to other people? Which is awesome. So this is a D12. Let's do it.
5. Curious.
It makes sense in a sense, like they're looking for information. They're all going to wheedle their way to try and this could apply to every person they're talking to. Trying to find out that.
What do you do?
Yeah. So,
where are you from? What do you know? Do you know, sort of thing?
Yeah.
It might be just even like go up to people blazingly and go, tell me something interesting.
Yes.
That you know. Do you know what I mean? Just
What a great phrase that they just appear at the wall next to you and you go, so tell me about you. What is it that? Tell me one interesting thing.
What makes you interesting? What makes you interesting enough for my time?
Or you could now just print out like a list of job questions, interview questions. Like, so why do you want to work for my company? Like that's
Exactly. Tell me a bit about yourself. Where do you want to be in 5 years? I had that in an interview recently. Literally had the where do you see yourself in 5 years? I was like, okay, this is a bit too cliche, right? Come on.
It's awful. I hate that. Next is useful knowledge. So in a sentence, describe a bit of knowledge that the NPC possesses that might be useful to the player characters. They might know something as banal as the best inn in town or an important clue to solve a murder. Now, obviously, this depends on what you're doing, but I think this villain that we're creating, they're a great source of information, so they could find out pretty much anything. So whether or not you pose them as the big bad, or as like almost like a Rita Skeeter from Harry Potter, that sort of like has all the gossip and stuff, and is that again that's sort of we're talking about the hags from before, whether they have we'll get something out of this, but at what cost? I think that's not an easy one.
What's the character in Sherlock who's got the mind palace?
Sherlock themselves.
Oh yeah, no, but Sherlock is borderline villainous, but as in he goes up against him, and it's in that Christmas special, and he has the really modernist house, and they think he's got a vault full of all this information, but it turns out it's all in his head.
Oh, yeah. It's been a long time since I've watched that episode, but yes.
But reminds me of that sort of thing. Yeah, has these like just knows and has the information to get behind everyone, just so to manipulate everyone. So you can just go up to someone and say like, "I know about what you did last summer," basically.
Oh, I love that.
Sort of thing. Yeah.
All right. And then you've got ideal. So in a sentence, describe one ideal that an NPC holds dear, which governs their greater actions. Blah, 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 blah. It can connect to an alignment shown in the table, but also these are only suggestions. An evil character could have a good ideal. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So roll a d6 on the first one. And hang on. So they've got tables that are 6 in a sense. So obviously from evil, neutral, good, and then chaotic, lawful, and neutral there, and then other ideals as well. So is there a table that you want to go for, per se?
Sure. What if we roll 2d6?
Okay, and then pick one from
Yeah.
those ones. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
good. Let's
there
do
you
that.
go. Yeah. So 4, which is chaotic, and then 2, creativity.
Creativity as their ideal. So I guess if we're going from
They see what they're doing as art.
Yes, I think so. Like it's that sort of like freedom of expression, right? I am free to criticize what I think, and it is as an art form in itself to be the perfect critique or critic or something, even if it's somebody's
critic
character.
of humanity.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. I am the critic. I am the critic of humanity.
Nice.
Do you not know who I am?
Toss
Exactly.
with the hair.
Yeah.
Oh, no hair.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting this person doesn't have any hair.
Oh, it's got the rat. They got the rat tail.
Okay. Penultimate one is bond. So in a sentence, summarize people, places, or things that are important to this person. This bond table can offer some small suggestions. So this is a D10. So you just go and roll that thing.
Need to find my D10.
I know, using all the dice for this one, which is nice.
I should have a 10 and a 100. That is a 10. There we are. 7.
7 is protective of a sentimental keepsake. A fountain pen of some sort, or a quill.
Yeah.
Or maybe given by a partner from previous times, or just maybe the first thing they bought with their gold pieces.
Yeah. Or a pair of ballet shoes.
Ballet shoes? I think pen would be better.
Just because they used to be dancers.
No, I like it.
That's why. There's a reason for it.
I think what I see with the pen, for example, if we were going to make this person into a spellcaster, that could be their focus in some way. I'm quite. But again,
and maybe that is making me a bit. Is it Rita Skeeter who's got the pen that writes itself, isn't it? So yeah.
Well, again, I like the idea that this again adds something to it. So it could be any of those.
Yeah. No, I like the fact that it's more of a spellcast, like it's a spellcasting focus, or maybe it's like, or maybe they're really a lich and it's where their phylactery is stored in a pen. There you go.
How cool is that? Like again, we've not even thought about age or anything like that. That this person, we just said this person just writes a lot of stuff. They've always been around.
Maybe they're the ancient one. They are the ancient one.
They are the ancient one, and I love that. The little phylactery of a fountain.
It sounds like, well, you've got to put it somewhere that's sort of like innocuous sometimes, haven't you? So it's like just like always on you.
Ooh. I like that. That's really changed how I was thinking about this. So that's really good. Okay, finally, is a flaw or a secret. In one sentence, describe this person's flaw, some element of the character's personality or history that could potentially undermine the character, or a secret they are trying to hide. So that's a D12.
I like this. D12. Specific phobia on an 8.
Interesting. That could be quite tricky, I guess, because of course, as soon as the players find out what that is, they're like, yes, spiders.
Well, it's like Indiana Jones and his snakes that you just think there's something like about it. Like he's like foolhardy bravery is another one there, but that Indiana Jones comes across as brave, unnerving, but the minute snakes are involved, just falls to pieces, and it's that sort of similar.
I guess for me, I would be like maybe. Again, depending on how your players find this, again, having a boundaries check, maybe heights, or even claustrophobia, perhaps. So this person never takes the fantasy lift, or isn't. They don't. They're always on the ground floor. They never go up. They don't go out onto a balcony or anything like that. Yeah, it's something like that rather. Because I usually always go to animal phobias or like something like that. But I think actually maybe something
being
environmental.
Like alone, even like always wants the story, so can never be alone. Like just can't handle not always being. So then you. Yeah. I don't know, it's not that idea.
No, but like there's always at parties, but it's never seen by themselves. So they always have the sort of entourage. They're never on their own for too long, which could make sense, I guess, for lich stuff as well. Like you can have little minions and stuff like that, bodyguards. So yeah, there you go. So we've
few of them. I like all of them actually. Being on the ground floor is quite a cool one as well. Like
I guess it's one that is not necessarily obvious.
That's it, exactly.
You know, because then I guess with that, it's like, okay, so if they were going to have, say if we're taking that lich example for this villain, and you're like, okay, where's their lair going to be? It's going to probably be underground somewhere, or it's going to be on the ground floor. It's not going to be a mountain. It's not going to be in a tree or anything like that. So that sort of, again, shapes the rest of this person's world out. And that's, from there, you can create, they talk about sort of making encounters. So you have this villain now, and you can work out, okay, when do your players interact with them? Are they going to interact with them in the middle of this person's scheme, or has it already happened? And your players are like, are living in the aftermath and they don't realise it. So I think we've come together like a very interesting character, which he can easily be a person. Because that's the thing, we've built up this person with human stuff, and then at the end you went, it could be a lich. That's great. We didn't even consider that at the beginning. As a result.
I've even just seen the Beholder made me think, which I think that is Xanathar there. I'm not 100% sure, but a Beholder journalist would be really cool.
That would be really cool. And of course, yes,
little eyes.
And Xanathar is also a really good example of a villain. As like is somebody who's at the the top of their sort of faction. They're doing deeds, but they also happen to be a monster that can kill you easily. And I think, and it's very obviously iconic the way Xanathar looks as well. So so you could take any of these creatures, but I always think you need to start with the human and build up. So having something like this little guide, or having a celebrity in mind, or having something, and you're like, this person encapsulates this emotion or this thing, and then work from there, and then go, and then they're this. I think that's always more interesting as a result.
Yeah, 100%.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Well,
there is a section here under villains that are separate as well. Did we want to do those ones additional?
You're gonna have to remind me which page or which bit it's in. Sorry.
It's just a bit further on down. It has by the actions. It's just to keep your extras.
Oh yes,
and then it goes
that's right. Sorry. Yes, it's on a different page.
It just gives them. We can do this off camera, but it says the scheme, the methods, and secret weakness.
Yes. So we'll do it very quickly because I'm just aware of time.
Okay.
So that's sort of, obviously you use that sort of method to make the detailed NPCs as well as villains. But I think once you've done that, you then have this villain section and just sort of so here it's like the villain scheme essentially. So here it sort of fleshes out their evil schemes, methods, and weaknesses. Which again, if you're struggling to think, if you don't have something already, then you can always put them out. So at first we've got objective, and scheme. So if you roll a d8 and then see what you get first. Roll a d8.
And then we'll roll the other one.
Yeah, it's very detailed.
8. Where did I put my d8? I can't see. Here it is. Right. 4.
4. So 4 is mayhem.
Mayhem.
Yeah, that works so well.
I like it.
That works so well. All right, roll a d6 on top of that. So we're going into the mayhem table here.
I like this because they're sort of like they're putting out secrets, trying to create chaos. We had a chaotic thing of creativity. They want to just create this mayhem. I love it. 2. Enact
the vengeful will of a god or patron. Now, I quite like that idea that this person isn't. Maybe they are a lich, but maybe they're not. Maybe it is a lich above them, or if they're a warlock, maybe it's like you were talking about the great old one or something like that. And through them, they're having so instantly you could be like, okay, this person is a warlock. This person is a sorcerer of some sort. That'd be quite good. Yeah, and maybe that whole thing about the dancing stuff. They broke their leg or broke their foot or something there, and then whilst they sort of like were recovering. This sort of sneaky little voice in their ear is like, you could do so much more. Let me show you and give you this power, and then build them up from there.
I like that. I like that.
All right, going on.
I can help you ruin those who set you down and all that. Yeah, I love it. No, yeah, good.
Creativity it has to be unleashed. It cannot be contained. That's
Yeah, okay, I'm loving this. This is good.
all right.
Great.
Going on to the villain's method. So roll a d20 for me, please, because this table is huge, really big.
Okay, let's go D20.
I love it.
Oh, 2.
Oh,
Is that
nice.
2? Yeah.
Nice early one. Okay, so their method is assault or beatings. Now, obviously, this is just just the phrasing of it, so it could be physical. I like the idea that it's verbal, and it's just a proper dressing down in all these articles.
Yes. That's it. Yeah, verbal. Yeah, just exactly. Just through horrifically written, just tirades at people.
It's just ripping them apart over and over again. Absolutely, and of course, it's almost like what's it called now? I appreciate you might not have seen Bridgerton, but there's a.
I have.
Oh, you have. Wait, so you've not seen Princess Bride, but you have seen Bridgerton? What is life?
Yes.
But obviously in Bridgerton they have the gossip columnist there who does that sort of eloquent dressing down of various people that aren't included in that season's marrying off and stuff like that. So that's what I like. It could be easily like that. And again, as a DM, if you have time to prep these things, I like the idea that after your parties come back from an adventure, you're writing little reports from hear and say, and it's obviously reported completely incorrectly. It's always the bad bits that are emphasised in this way. Because you can imagine the DM making notes anyway, and then just writing it.
I've got an idea for that tattoo now. It's a tattoo which rereads instead. It goes sticks and stones, or something like may break your bones, but my words will always hurt you. Sort of thing, or something like that. That's just on their back, and something like that. That's just like their little just their little nod to it.
I think that's really cool. I think that's really cool. All right. Yeah. Then we've got the final section, and thankfully this is a short section. The villain's secret weakness. So finding and exploiting a villain's weakness can be very gratifying for the players. Although a smart villain will try to conceal this weakness. So it gives an example of a lich. That's quite funny.
It does actually, and also gives you, for example, it has a flattery for its soul that it keeps well hidden.
Well,
okay. I actually didn't read this before.
No, me neither. That's fine. But let's roll a d8 and see what we can get from that.
I thought I had a really cool idea.
But that's the thing. What's one example, right?
2.
The
villain's power is broken if the
the death of its true love is avenged. I'm going to say let's as DM DM Bright. We'll go for the hidden object that holds the villain's soul. Let's go for the number one.
And it is the philanthropy. Jeez, there you go.
So there you go.
But could I got one idea for broken if the death of its true love is avenged.
Go for it.
Right? The death of ballet. There was a death of someone killed this. Oh no, right? Okay, is the silly idea, right?
Yes, it always.
There was a critique who came along, saw one of their plays, and gave it a hounding. In the press, an absolute hounding. Said this dancer was terrible, and they played in it, they directed it, they wrote it, they were everyone in this show, and this is gonna maybe get a little bit dark, but then then that killed off dramatic theatre, like ballet theatre in this city that they're from. That was it. They thought they could revive it, and it had been dead for years with their new grand space opera, and after this critics review, they break their own legs by jumping off something. Like, they're not trying to kill themselves, they just can't stand themselves because of it, so they sort of jump off a building or something like that, but like not high enough to kill them, or do something like put them in a vice, or like they stick some own body modification, kind of what I'm getting at, to do that, so that they could never dance, because if no one can appreciate my dance, no one will ever be able to appreciate my dance.
I like
that.
Yeah, there you go. You see, again, a little tragic backstory.
And then they get the call from the ancient one, whoever the chaotic power who wants to destroy the world, and that's where it is.
And of course, I know we said like an old one, something like that, but actually, obviously, the Fae could also be an example.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
I'm only using that because I don't actually know what the ancient one is. I just think something.
It's Cthulhu alien-esque sort of thing. But
right, okay.
But again, all of these are great options. And so here you go. There's us just creating a very quick way of creating villain, but instantly. What a cool thing. And is technically human. Oh, sorry, is mortal, is what I meant to say. I think that's the whole point of getting through this. Is that
I love the idea now, sorry, that the party basically just have to put on a performance of a ballet which is amazing, and then gets rave reviews, and they'll give up on their evil.
Well, they'll never get there. But unfortunately, Hamilton, it's time
Sorry.
to end. No.
Sorry,
I'm just aware of time because I've got to get back to work.
Yes, you've got to go to work.
I've got to go
Okay.
back to work. But Hamilton, is there anything you'd like to quickly plug? Anything?
No, don't worry about it. No. Yes, Dragon's Duel Season 3 will be starting very soon.
Yeah.
And I can confirm that it's on December the 4th, which is a Saturday, will be our first of our character creation episodes.
That's awesome. Oh, I'm so excited.
Which will be a usual game show, but not so usual, with all the crazy multiversal ideas that we've got.
That's exciting.
Did I say that? Yeah, so yeah, that's what I can say.
Fantastic.
Mm.
And just to quickly end off,
What about yourself?
What am I? What about me? Well, when I'm not in the Forest of Chult at work, I run the What Am I Rolling, twice monthly RPG one-shot podcast. So it's always going very, very, very well. I'm also doing lots of improv stuff just now, which I'm sure I need to. This is at this point, Fiona. You put it in the comments, or put it elsewhere. We also have an offer code for DM's Book Club at Third Space Gaming in Burnley. So you just type the offer code DMBC into checkout and get 10% off your first order. And hey, you know what? It's the festive season. You know, if you're getting gifts for people, maybe time to use that offer code.
Yeah, 100%.
Brilliant. Well,
Okay.
I guess until next time, folks.
Next time.
Next
We'll
time.
see you on the flip side.
See you on the flip side.
Bye.